bass and go low. Pick up the place like a dojo. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello.
Political leader of the People's National Movement. The good book admonishes us to honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long in the land of the living. But there comes a time when we have to tell the elders that their behavior is not worthy of emulation. There comes a time when we have to tell the elders, and particularly those who have served this country in whatever capacity, that the road that you are traveling could lead to your perdition. There comes a time when we have to tell our elders, as the young soca artists reminded us earlier this year, come down from there. There comes a time when we have to call out Kamla Sushila Prasad Bisesa for the cowardly, deceptive, dishonest, disingenuous individual that she takes revel and takes time in being, and that time is now. Kamla Sushila Prasad Bisesa. I don't care if I am WPC, but I am also LOTH. I am also LVC. And I am also here to tell you, come down from there tonight. We have to do that, ladies and gentlemen, because she is trying to rewrite history. They are attempting to construct their own truth. They are engaging in all manner of semantics to absolve themselves from blame. But I am saying that they are only digging deeper holes for themselves. You, Kamla Sushila Prasad Bisesa, you are the leader and ringleader of a party that would lie, steal, and do anything unholy for political power. And you mean to tell us in Trinidad and Tobago, we know you, that you have all this sordid information about the PNM and its membership, and you not using it against us? You have all this information about us being pedophiles, and you not using it against us? Kamla, stop talking horse manure. Kamla, you tried through Vanilla Allen Toppin to accuse our beloved Prime Minister and his father of disgusting acts. Your party tried to accuse Mr. Manning of having a child whilst he was married, even going so far as to purchase plane tickets for this so-called mother and child. All lies. Kamla, we have not forgotten you or your party, and we know that you would go to any length to try to destroy the PNM. But better than you have tried that, and the PNM is still here after 66 years. Deceptive Kamla, we in the PNM value life. Can you and your husband say the same? Do you value children's lives, no matter their age. Kamla, Manohar Ramsaran, and Robert Sabga, you all sat down on that report of abuse in children's homes and said nothing. Once an issue does not serve the narrative of the UNC and Kamla, they lie, they malign, they deceive, they deflect, because that is what they are about to achieve their objectives. They keep deflecting, ladies and gentlemen, asking why the PNM are studying the 1997 Sabga report and not questioning the Judith Jones report. They have their agents in social media blatantly lying and using the deaths of children to gain cheap political points. They are using the names of the dead to tarnish, to malign, just so that they can deflect. But Kamla, not only the PNM, but the people of Trinidad and Tobago are seeing through your technique. It is not working. Deceptive Kamla, Sushila, Prasad Bisesta, you're making a host of allegations against our party, which was founded on the principles of ethics, morality, respect, honesty, which is led by a man who lives his life in accordance with the principles of ethics, morality, respect, and honesty. We belong to a party with a long history of doing right for all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, from cradle to grave. We deny any knowledge of any heinous behavior. Instead of you just talking utter rubbish, why you don't bring the evidence? If you knew that we are engaged in heinous acts, why you don't take the evidence to the police? You just want to talk nonsense. And so tonight I want to tell you and Robert Sabga, who are elders in our community, come down from there, sit down and hush. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, every time Robert Sabga opens his mouth to the media, he only succeeds in burying himself further. And I am almost certain that every other member of the Sabga family is hanging their head in shame. His accusations against the PNM have become so ridiculous that even the Venerable Diana Mahabir Wyatt, a woman who has done so much to advance the cause of children and victims of domestic abuse, has had to publicly challenge his statements and wondered whether he remembered there were others on the task force, and said that what he was spewing was never brought to the attention of the other members. The only thing she didn't do was tell him to shut up. The 1997 Sabga report was submitted in 1997, the same year that Sabga was given instruments of appointment for ambassador to Canada. Was this his reward? Did you forsake the children crying out for help to expedite your career, to expedite your dreams, and now 25 years later, you are expressing outrage over a report you sat on? If we look at the list of persons who have joined Sabga, is Kamla, then we have the Prince of Princestown, Barry Padarat, who continues his job of tugging at Kamla's dress tail. Barry shouting from the rooftop that the Sabga report was laid in Parliament and that the PNM had access to the report. And ladies and gentlemen, when the pixie dust and the MAC powder dried, the Parliament quite rightly stated that no such report was ever laid. The Parliament said that no such report was ever laid. I am woman enough to tell Barry tonight, it's time to put down Kamala's handbag. Let me make it abundantly clear to all of us gathered here, those listening on the World Wide Web, and to the national community. Barry Padarat, Manohar Ramsaran misled the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and Kamala also misled the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The report was never laid in the Parliament. But then again, being dishonest is the DNA of the UNC. And I posit that they hid the report. And then you all must remember David Naked jumping up and he talking too. He vexed with the Judith Jones Committee for not including his name in their report as someone who provided information. The same David Naked who said the UNC cannot lead itself out of a paper bag. He's now a frontline speaker for the UNC. This is the same David Naked who admitted that at the request of Geraldine John and Kamala, he withheld information that could have helped in saving the lives of 2 of the 5 boys who absconded from the safe house operated by the Children's Authority. You all remember that? And then we have another supporter of this sordid situation, a certain CNN reporter, UNC agent, masseuse, who goes by the name of Evie George. And I have one question for her. Who is the sitting High Court judge you have been contacting to get false information and use that on UNC propaganda sites? Tell us, please, frankly speaking, is this the same Evie George who has an odd relationship with a former high-ranking official and is now claiming that the PNM is responsible for pedophilia? At least she didn't blame us when the man thieved back his phone. But ladies and gentlemen, what are the facts? What are the facts? Because all of them talking nonsense. The cabinet of 1997, led by then Prime Minister Bastio Pandey, appointed a committee chaired by Robert Sabga to investigate allegations of abuse and neglect at children's homes in Trinidad and Tobago. The cabinet at that time is quite instructive, and with the permission of the cabinet or the Prime Minister, I have some of the cabinet notes here, and you all know that cabinet information is secret, but I do have information that I will share with you. The composition of the cabinet at the time is instructive. The cabinet listing for the period 1997 to 2000 includes the names of Kamla Sushila Prasad Bisesa as the Minister of Legal Affairs, Wade Mark as the Minister of Public Administration and Information, Ralph Maraj as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ramesh Lawrence Maraj as the Attorney General, Brigadier Joseph Theodore as the Minister of National Security. And the cabinet decision that was taken after the report came to the cabinet said, the contents, and I'm quoting, the contents of the report of the task force appointed to review the operations of children's homes and institutions in Trinidad and Tobago were made available to the cabinet. That investigations, and it was agreed that investigations by the task force have revealed that approximately 27 children's homes of varying sizes were known to be operating in Trinidad and Tobago, of which 10 were visited by the task force, and recommendations in respect thereof were set out in the executive summary of the report. The recommendations of the task force, and I'm paraphrasing, were that there should be licensing of homes, inspection of homes, investigations into the subventions, the development of a child care plan. There should be an examination by the Statutory Authorities Service Commission, recommendations that address legal issues, management and staff recommendations, and recommendations to include a future task force. It also said that the comments of the Attorney General and the Minister of National Security on the legal issues raised in the report should be examined. It also said, Cabinet referred for the consideration of the Minister of Public Administration and Information, Wademark, the recommendation of the Minister of Social Development that the Statutory Authorities Service Commission terminate the services of certain members of staff. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing was done. Today, I asked the Cabinet Secretariat to check whether there was any subsequent information that came to the Cabinet in regard to these recommendations. They could find nothing. Nothing. They did absolutely nothing. The tears of every child that has been spilled since that report is on the hands of that cabinet, who did nothing, absolutely nothing to protect them. But ladies and gentlemen, as soon as we came into office in 2001, we immediately set about making sure that the legislation, you would remember that Kamala talked about them passing 5 pieces of legislation. The 5 pieces of legislation were not workable. They did nothing with regard to the regulations. They did nothing with regard to training of staff. They did absolutely nothing to make the legislation implementable. It was only when the PNM came into office that we ensured that we did training, we made the legislation implementable. So they could talk about legislation being on the books, which it was, but we had to make so many amendments. We had to make regulations. We had to do everything to make the legislation implementable. And even when we did that, their former Attorney General, Anand Ramlogan, went to court because he recognized that there was a lacuna in the legislation and took the government to court to benefit from that that space, which is what a lacuna is, or in the legislation, which would allow him to win a case against the government. And they want to say that they love this country and they love children. I am telling you that no member of the PNM in opposition at the time received a copy of the report. We didn't have it, we had no access to it, and the only way we knew about it was because they made passing reference, and I repeat, passing reference to this report. And so when Kamala is trying to accuse our Prime Minister of having knowledge of the report, we say, Balderdash Kamala Prasad Bisesa, you had knowledge. You saw the report in the cabinet, and you sat there and did absolutely nothing. And you want to call yourself Mother of the Nation. Let me tell you all something. Do you think if it was true that a PNM member was a pedophile, or if it was my fifth cousin on my great-great-grandmother's side who was a pedophile, or who had buried the report, that Kamala and them were not going to be talking about that every single day? Exactly, they're going to be washing them out on us. 25 years after that report was completed, the UNC now taking basket from Robert Sabga. Imagine in one of his many interviews, Robert Sabga said he delivered the reports to Manohar Ramsaran in the dead of night. He moved 40 copies of the report from his car trunk to Manohar car trunk. What kind of cloak and dagger stuff they were up to? Even Mrs. Mahabir Wyatt had to say that that's Watergate behavior. And why was it necessary to deliver a cabinet-appointed committee report in the dead of night in a parking lot? They're making up a story. And then Robert Sabga linking the report to Akhil Chambers' tragic death. Akhil Chambers died in 1998. God rest his soul. And he's saying PNM people responsible. Ladies and gentlemen, what did PNM do Robert Sabga so that he prepared to sacrifice all his credibility, if he has any, and all his integrity, if he has any, to drag us into UNC Kankatang? We in the PNM demand justice for Akhil and every child that was harmed by evil. And that is why our Prime Minister, on learning of the Sabga report, has immediately asked for the police to get hold of the report and deal with the issues in that report. Our Prime Minister is the first person to say, get hold of the report and deal with the issues in that report. And it has been done. And they say now that they gave the report to Hilton Guy. But you all notice it's only dead people they're talking about. Kamala and the UNC like Kobo. They're only looking for dead. What is going on with them? Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you tonight, if that were the PNM, do you think we would sit on such a report? We commissioned the Judith Jones report, and as soon as the Children's Authority had sight of it, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet insisted that it be laid in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and it was done. The Prime Minister has also said, if there is any malfeasance, the police must deal with it, and that is being done. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that Kamla is always and has always been obsessed with the PNM, and I dare say she is obsessed with our political leader. But Kamla, you have plenty of us to go through before you could get to our political leader. Imagine Kamla talking about pedophilia and a pedophile ring when we understand that when we were amending the Marriage Act, Kamla swore in 2 pundits in the Senate to protest the abolition of child marriages. Kamla, we're not forgetting you. We remember all of that. And between 1996 and 2016, the Registrar General recorded 3,478 child marriages. Based on the marriage certificates shown, girls as young as 11 and 12 were married to men as old as 42 and 56. And cowardly Kamla Sushila Prasad Bisesa, always crying that she is a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a daughter, and she was supporting that. Kamla, you really expect us to believe that you care about children when you did nothing about the SABGA report? Don't try to implicate the PNM, because the PNM has done everything in its power to make sure that the children's homes run properly, that people are trained, that the legislation is effective. You are accusing us of such disgusting and distasteful acts, and we understand you know a whole lot about human trafficking and prostitution and have done nothing about it. Imagine you have a young lady now in Parliament who just have to hear Fitzgerald Hines use the word skimpy, bare, naked, or even the word truth, and she automatically feels Fitz talking about her. We belong to a party with a long and distinguished history of doing right by the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And it crawls my blood and the blood of all of us here when we hear you talk about our party like that. Instead of you just talking such disgusting rubbish, I say to you again, bring the evidence. Bring the evidence. Tonight, as I close, I want to ask Kamla Sushila Prasad Bisesa the following. What is your relationship with Evie George? Do you know Evie George? Does Evie George work for you? Are you aware that on September 21st, 2015, Evie George made a report to the Valencia police station at 3 p.m. and reported threats to have her killed by persons known and affiliated with the UNC hierarchy? And you all feel I am WPC and joke? I have it here. And after I finish with Kamla, I want a promotion, When Evie George told you about these threats, what did you do, Kamla? Ladies and gentlemen of the PNM, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, the UNC, as my colleague, the Member of Parliament for La Hoketa Talparo has said, has declared war on the PNM and war on our political leader. Kamla's next step, I bet you, is to join with the unions and try to rally them against the government as public sector wage negotiations take place. Already, James Lambert, a former UNC senator, is calling for a shutdown of the country. Kamla, your desperation is showing. You are trying to cling to the last vestiges of control and power in the UNC. And therefore, we expect to see more brazen attacks against the PNM. So we know you have gotten tired of calling Faris's name. So now you're calling Foster's name. Kamla, we want to tell you, we want you to stay in charge. We want you to stay more than the opposition bench wants you to stay. Because once you're there, the PNM there forever. The only thing we want to ensure is that you don't drag us in the muck that you wallow in. And ladies and gentlemen of the PNM, there can be only one response. We will fight fire with fire. We will face them toe to toe. We will defend our political leader in the morning, noon, and night. And in the end, we know that we will be victorious because great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. And we shall prevail. Thank you.
Hello, hello.